So I went and saw Captain Marvel yesterday, and today I am doing a film review. I'm using the same scoring like template, I guess, as I do for my bad film reviews. Not that it was a bad film at all. But yeah, I will be using that scoring method. So I was just looking for the page that I wanted to find, which is this one, because this particular panel in particular actually has higher, further, faster written in it, which was sort of like the mantra that she has throughout the movie. So obviously I can use that to sort of give it an extra point in the accuracy to source material column. But yeah, so I'm gonna let the intro play and then I'll talk you guys through how I do a film review again. Alright, so just in case you're new, because I do know that I've had friends on Facebook sort of share my channel and have some of their friends come and check me out, hopefully subscribe, etc. So yeah, in case you're new here, when I do a film review, let me just I'm not as, here we go. When I do a film review, I break a film down into 10 different parts and then give each of those parts a score out of 10 for a total out of 100. Basic maths there. So those 10 parts are script, casting, acting, directing, cinematography, editing, set design or location, soundtrack, special and visual effects, and then its accuracy to source material or originality as a new concept, depending on what the particular film requires. And then I also usually give the Rotten Tomato scores and stuff, because this one is not a bad film review and does not need to be under a certain critical score to be on the list. I don't have to give any of those scores. I can just simply give what my score is, and we can go from there. So yeah, let's have a little conversation. Script. This was a really good script. Obviously, being part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, they had to sort of fit it in there with particular things. There were things that sort of this film helped line up nicely, like Nick's eye getting all fetid. If you remember from Winter Soldier, he sort of shows his eye. It's all like all fucked up. This film helps set up why it's all messed up. And I do like the fact that he doesn't replace his eye, he just sort of covers it up, because it's a good memory. I like how they got the pager set up from what we saw in the post-credit scene of Infinity War, and then obviously actually setting up the character of Captain Marvel. But then also, as far as giving us the Kree-Skrull War, that was cool to see. And then like her personal journey as well. All in all, was I could not fault the storyline and the story that was told. I really couldn't. I am going to be giving that a 10. It was a banger of a script. The cast was obviously, some of the cast was already sort of chosen in their respective roles. Like Clark Gregg came back as Coulson, Samuel L. Jackson obviously as Nick Fury. We had Lee Pace coming back, Jaimin Hansu coming back in their roles respectively as Ronan the Accuser and Korvath. It was really cool to see them. Then we had Jude Law as Yon-Rogg, who is a longtime villain of both versions of Captain Marvel. And then we had, struggling to remember her name, but there was the woman that sort of plays this, like the MCU's version of Marvel, who in the comics is a male, but I'm kind of liking how they're taking the traditionally male mentor characters and giving those to just some kick-ass female actors, similar to how the Ancient One used to be an old Tibetan guy in the comics, and then in the MCU it's Tilda Swinton. I do particularly like that's what they're going with. I think it does give a lot more like powerful female roles, so I do like that. And then of course Brie Larson absolutely just knocks it out of the park. The people that played the rest of Star Force, so we had Minerva, Atlas, and Bronchar. The actors that played them did all, they did all right. They didn't need to be major focuses because they realistically weren't in it that much. But having Ben Mendelsohn as a bad guy fit really well. I have seen him as a villain before. Obviously he's one of the bad guys in Rogue One. I believe it's Rogue One. But he also plays a bad guy in the movie version of Animal Kingdom, which is an excellent movie. And so seeing him in sort of that villain role to start off with was really good, because I think he has exceptional acting chops when it comes to playing like the bad guy or like the morally ambiguous one. But to then have his character sort of, and spoiler alert, do the little U-turn that his character does. Yeah, I thought that was really well done, well casted. So we'll give the casting a 9. I can already tell this is going to get a high score. Acting can also get a 9, because obviously, like, Samuel L. Jackson, Clark Gregg, Brie Larson, Ben Mendelsohn, Jude Law, they're all really, really exceptional actors, and they bloody brought their A game. I was not disappointed at all, either as a Marvel fan or as a cinephile. The directing choices, such as making Marvel a female instead of a male, as is traditionally what happened in the comics. I've already given my opinion on that. I thought that was exceptional. Other things such as, like other little things such as making Avenger Carol Danvers's call sign as a fighter pilot, as a test pilot. I thought that was really cool, particularly at the end when Fury's mocking up the first draft of the Protector Initiative and then decides to name it after her. I thought that was really good, sort of referenced to her being its leader in the comics at one point, because she does actually, there's a storyline where Tony sort of gets put in charge of S.H.I.E.L.D., like he's the director of S.H.I.E.L.D., and he talks with Captain Marvel about creating a new team, and so she obviously becomes like its field commander sort of thing, and I really liked that. Really liked that they named, sort of basically named the initiative after her, and that she was the inspiration for it in the first place, because Nick wanted to find more individuals like her. So yeah, I thought that was really cool. What else? The decision to have a Flerken at all, really, wasn't a surprise, because Captain Marvel has a Flerken anyway. In the comics, its name's Chewie, after Chewbacca, because she's like Han Solo, and then it's her Chewbacca. But to name it Goose in this, after the Top Gun character, to sort of have that little vibe going, I wasn't mad at it. I was like, I understand why you're doing it. Top Gun's, you know, I'm pretty sure Top Gun's a 90s movie. I could be wrong there. But yeah, all in all, really good directing choices. As a filmmaker myself, yeah, I'm struggling to find anything that I would change. Was really good. It's funny, I went with my dad, and the first time you see Hala, he's like, "What's this? Some future Earth or something?" I'm like, "No, that's Hala, the Korean homeworld." And literally, just as I finished saying it, says Hala, and like the coordinates and stuff, in a similar way to the Guardians of the Galaxy movies. So I'm almost certain that there's some Easter eggs in the coordinates again. Anyway, moving on, cinematography. Obviously, most films will have just like the generic, when you're talking, sort of back and forth shots of people's faces. You can't really get away from that. That's just how you show who's talking, sort of thing, in film language. But the action sequences in this were phenomenal. Obviously, there's the train sequence where she's following a Skrull as it tries to sort of escape using the trains, turns into the old lady that she punches, ends up on top of the train. She uses a photon blasts, and then somehow still manages to escape. That was not a part that I thought I would see, considering how powerful she is, but I enjoyed it. It was like, okay, so even with all her powers, she can still make mistakes. That humanizes her. But the cinematography in that, with the, like, there's that one shot where, like, the camera flips as she does. That was really cool. Some of the, like, slow motion shots as she's, like, sort of flying into battle sort of thing. And then obviously at the end where she's fighting all the spaceships. Cinematography was pretty good. I'm going to give it a 9 as well. Editing, there were some moments where I would have edited it a little differently, mainly with the scene where they're, like, going through her memories. Obviously there were parts there where I was like, that's really well edited, and then there were other parts where it's like, you know, like, they had about 4 or 5 other instances of her, like, falling or crashing or whatever, and then learning to pick herself up. And it was just edited in a weird way, I guess. I would have liked to have seen it sort of flow a little bit better. So, like, they'd show her crash, and then they'd show her on the ground in a different one, and then they'd show her being, you know, picking herself up from a different one, instead of sort of playing out all, like, I don't know, the crashes, and then the picking herself up bits, and it was just weird. But I'll give editing an 8 because that's literally my only complaint. So set design, being that this was a period piece, as much as that pains me to say, the 90s are now period. Yeah. Particularly since this film is set 24 years ago. Yes, 24 years ago. Yeah. Makes sense. So yeah, the set designs were really good. I did notice that they basically reused the for the, like, the establishing shot on Hala. They basically reused the shot of the Grandmaster's Tower from Sakaar. But other than that, the design of the set itself was really good. It basically looked how I imagined Hala would look on the big screen. I like how they showed the Supreme Intelligence. Thought that was really cool design. And then obviously, like, the shield base, the shield NASA USAF base, that was kind of cool. The, like, downtown LA LA, New York, whatever town it was she was in. That was cool. And then the Rambo's farm was also really good. Set design, I'll give an 8. I think set design for me is going to be a hard one to get a 10 in, though, if we're being honest. Like, sets have to be just next level for that. Soundtrack, I'm normally the kind to, like, go on a nostalgic trip down memory lane with music. Like, I will just randomly decide, you know what, today I'm just gonna listen to In Utero by Nirvana, and that's what we're gonna do today. So to actually have a Marvel movie that's like, you know what, that's basically what we're doing today, I thought was really good. The entire night, because I had work as well after I had watched this movie, the entire night I was just humming the riff to Come As You Are by Nirvana in my head. I sort of also came to the realization that's also the song that they used on the trailers for the Defenders on Netflix. That is the same song that they used, but then obviously, like, they use other 90s, late 80s, early 90s songs in the soundtrack as well, and I just had a blast with it. You know, the soundtrack was just spot on. Other than, like, you know, like the score is a little different because, like, obviously you've got to balance aliens and like futuristic sort of sounds with the 90s, which obviously is not. But yeah, no, soundtrack get a solid 8 there. Visual and special effects, look, we're just gonna, that's a 9. When your main character's whole ability is being able to go binary, and basically release this whole, like, other form of energy. Yeah. Visual effects are gonna come in handy. When your main villains for the first, like, act, 2 acts of the film are shapeshifters who shapeshift in what is possibly the most painful looking transformation we've yet seen on film. Yeah, it's gonna come in handy. But then practical effects such as, like, the blue paint for the blue Krees, because there are blue Krees and white Krees, and there's a whole racial thing there. Yeah, it was really well done. As for accuracy, I've already spoken on how I liked the main difference of, like, the gender swapping of Marvel. The Kree Skrull War actually happened in the comics. A Marvel, Yonrog, and Carol Danvers being present when a experimental engine erupts. happened in the comics. In the comics, it's the Psyche Magnetron that explodes. In this, it's a warp drive that explodes. I think the warp drive is just more digestible for a broader audience, so I understand why they changed that. Not mad. Honestly, the Psyche Magnetron makes it sound more like something Psycho Man would do, and he's more or less a Fantastic Four villain, so I, again, also understand it for that reason as well. All in all, I felt like they stayed pretty accurate to most of the things that happen in the comics. And then obviously with the story focusing on the Kree-Skrull War, they were sort of able to tell those events whichever way they wanted, as long as they kept true to the fact that it's the Kree-Skrull War. And then with the whole thing being that that Carol herself became Mar-Vell's weapon to end the war, and that he was working with this, like, with the Skrulls to do it the entire time. That also story-wise fit really well for the rest of the MCU. So accuracy is going to get a 9, which brings me to the addition of what I think this movie should get. Alright, what do we got? 1, 2, 3, 4, 12. What's that? That's 88% in total, which, you know, it's not bad. I mean, yeah, it's not bad. 88%. Considering that, as far as Marvel movies go as well, it's competing with actually, like, what were the recent awards? Were they Academy Awards? I can't remember, but like, it's competing with award-nominated movies like Black Panther, whose script is just phenomenal, or Doctor Strange, who has some of the craziest special effects in any of these movies. Getting an 88 when you're sitting with those movies, and like, we're sitting with movies that are generally hated on, like Iron Man 3 and Thor: The Dark World as well. Getting an 88% is nothing to, you know, nothing to cry about. Like, that's a really good score. Would it have been funnier if it was a 95? Yes, probably, but yeah, there would have been a couple of little things that I would have done to get it to that 95 mark. But yeah, that's all I've got for today. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to give this video a thumbs up. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and the notification bell, so that you are notified when I upload new videos. I do that every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, or as close to as I can. And yeah, I will see you guys all on Monday. Until then, check you later.